All right, so example number 3, how do I find solutions to the zeros? All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to solve this then by factoring. And I'm going to then have my x's. And now we need to make 48, but then added together, the factors will need to make 49x. So let's start listing the factors. 1 times 48. And instead of listing them all, right now I can see that a 1 and a 48 could make 49. So I'm going to take 48 and 1. And I know they're both going to be positives because those added together. And so now this is equal to 0. And so this last step then is simply just then solving it. X plus 1 is equal to 0. And then x plus 48 is equal to 0. And I have x is equal to negative 1. And then x is equal to negative 48. So negative 1 and negative 48 are the solutions to this trinomial. All right, so for number 2, now we have x squared plus 3x is equal to 18. First of all, we want to make this equal to 18. Equal to 0. So we have x squared plus 3x minus 18 now is going to be equal to 0. And so now we'll want to factor, and we're going to then factor out, and we'll have x and an x. So now we need to find the factors of 18. So right here. So 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. All right, so looking at these, it looks like I can use the 3 and the 6 because notice how we have a negative 18. So we know one has to be negative and one has to be positive. All right, so let's take our 3 and our 6. And so now when we look at these, we have a 3x and we have a 6x here. And so now because we have a positive 3, we want our 6x to be larger. So that means that I'm going to have a plus right here, and then my negative is going to come over here. So then we'll just simply finish solving. And we have x plus 6 is equal to 0. So our two solutions are 3 and negative 6. All right, so number 3. Let's go ahead. We're going to move the 8x and the negative 12 over to the other side by doing the opposite because we want to keep a positive x squared. All right, so we'll have x squared minus 8x plus 12 then is going to be equal to 0. And so now let's go ahead and we're going to factor. And I'm going to have an x and an x. And then we're looking for the factors. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and then we have 3 times 4. All right, so it looks like because we want to make an 8, we could make a negative 8 from the 2 and the 6. So we'll have, let's use our 2 and our 6, but notice how we have a positive, and we can make a positive by either 2 positives or with 2 negatives. And notice because we have this negative 8 right here, we're going to put minus. So now this is equal to 0, and so once you've got it factored, x minus 2 is equal to 0, and x minus 6 is equal to 0. And then, so x is going to be equal to 2, and x is going to be equal to 6. So these are our two solutions here. All right, our last one, number 4, we're just going to make this a 0. And so let's go ahead, we're going to start by then factoring. So I'm going to have an x and I'm going to have an x. And I'm trying to make 24, and then I've got to pay attention to this negative 2x here. So I have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 4, and 4 times 6. All right, so it looks like then I could use then this right here, the 4 and the 6, because I could make a 2 out of that from subtracting them. So let's go ahead, let's use a 4 and a 6. Now we've got to determine then which one's going to be the positive and which one's going to be the negative. So this is going to be 6x. Now because I have a negative 2, I need this one to be a negative. So our 6 has to be the negative, but then our 4 is going to be the positive, and then we'll just finish solving. So x is equal to -4, and x is equal to +6.